What's up and what's good, YouTube? Today we are going to be taking a very quick look at how to do an easy repair job on how to replace your water valve on an LG WT7600 HKA top loader washing machine. So if you guys are experiencing a problem where you have water that is dripping inside your tub, and you can hear mine, it's leaked so much that there's water actually behind my tub. And another common issue where the water valve is the culprit is a leak from the bleach dispenser. And so if you have water dripping out of your detergent dispenser, especially when it's open, it'll drip out of the underside, or if you're opening your detergent dispenser and finding that it's overflowing, or if you have a tub that's just full of water, or like mine, you notice that when you shake it, there's water inside the unit. The most common culprit is the water valve. These hot and cold ports right here are the actual water valve themselves. So I've already, for time purposes, to try and make this video as quick and as informative as possible, I've gone ahead and done this, but I'll show you every step of the way. On my particular unit, and a lot of these LGs are very similar, so if you don't have my exact model, this tutorial will still help you in repairing the same issue for your model. And you know, even though the parts may be different serial numbers, the installation is generally the same. So what I have on my specific unit and what you'll have are a series of screws around this back shroud. For my specific unit, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws that needed to be removed. And then this part right here takes an iron stomach. So you can see that I've got a big gap here because, like I said, I've already broken mine free, but it wasn't always that way. I'm a contractor. I have every tool under the sun imaginable. I also am an amateur automotive enthusiast, so I have panel poppers and everything. But what I found that worked the best, even with all my tools, was a handy dandy butter knife, because it's so thin and durable. And what I did was I just started the corner and I started working down, and then I was able to pry it back enough that I was able to get my fingers in there. You don't want to use small pressure just from the butter knife, because that's how you break clips. So all I was doing with this was trying to shim it out enough that I could get my fingers in there to disperse the pressure in a wider area so that I could pop off several clips at once, rather than just focusing all this direct pressure on one clip, because again, that's a good way to go breaking clips. And so even once you get these screws removed, I've seen some videos where people are able to just lift off their back shroud. That was not the case for mine. I had to pop it, and then I had to work myself around and pop it several times to remove all of the retaining clips. You can see up top, these are the retaining clips that bite the shroud. And then on the side, there are some holes here where the shroud actually has alignment tabs that go into those holes. So again, it is not for the faint of heart, because it does make some nasty noises, but if you just give it a nice, you know, you're able to get your fingers in there and use a butter knife and trim it out and give it a nice pop, and then just keep working your way around, it will come loose. So once you've done that, you've exposed the water valve. The water valve has a series of solenoids, and these are what go bad and what cause your water to leak in the tub or leak in the bleach dispenser. And we'll get more to this particular unit in a second. But removing this thing is a little bit, it's very straightforward. Even the most amateur, DIYer is capable of doing this. So do not be intimidated by this project. But there is one thing, just because of spatial confinements, that makes it difficult. And we'll get to that in a second. So there's a screw here on the left, and a screw here on the right, and a screw here in the middle that need to be removed on my specific unit. Once you remove those screws, the next thing you're going to want to do is unclip the wiring harness from the 5 solenoids. So you can go ahead and take a picture if you want for reference. That way you know you're putting it back the same way and making the correct connections, like red, white, blue, and then white, blue. But the harness is taped in a way that I don't think you could confuse which solenoid connector goes to which solenoid, even if you didn't take a photo, but better safe than sorry. So anyhow, once you've removed the screws and removed the solenoid electrical connections from all 5 solenoids, and they just plug into the bottom here, and again, we'll get to that in a second. The next thing you're going to want to do is there are two hoses. Here's hose 1, and again mine has been disconnected, and here's hose 2. They connect, and I'm going to go ahead and remove it now to show you, to the gray, we call these bungs. I'm going to set it down here. Again, sorry for the poor editing, but we're focusing on content rather than quality of production here. The hoses connect to these two bungs, and these bungs with the red grommets on them actually plug in to these clear inputs here on the back, or ports rather. So this thing lines up straight. You've got the the 3 reds that go into the clear ports, and then you've got your 2 bungs where your 2 hoses go. Now again, because of spatial confinements, this was a little bit difficult. You're gonna need a pair of channel lock pliers, and then all you have to do with your channel locks is grab these ears and depress them, squeeze them together. Once you do that with your channel locks, you can then take this coupler here and shove it back. And then once you've done that, it's just a matter of working that hose free because it's connected. This bung is inside, and you can see that it has a flared fitting on the end of it so that it doesn't pop out easily. And so what I found that I had to do was, again, take my handy dandy butter knife with all my tools. The butter knife was literally the magic tool for this job, and I put it non-serrated side downward in between the hose and the actual fitting on the valve here, and I just kind of worked the butter knife back and forth, pushing away from the actual valve until the hoses popped off. Once you do that, there is nothing to it. I mean, it's a very straightforward, very simple job. And so the last thing I want to touch base on, you can see the specific part number for mine here. Let me give you a better view. Right here is AJU 732-13301. They make tons of aftermarket water valves. And what you'll see here, and very important, if you look at all of my solenoids, the electrical connectors are on the bottom of the solenoids. A lot of the aftermarkets, they will have a clear body and the electrical connectors will be up top. Normally, I don't have a problem with saving money and buying an aftermarket replacement part because oftentimes they're, very similar to OE, but they're half the cost. In this particular case, that is not the case here. And what you're going to run into is that these connectors are oftentimes found on the top of the solenoid, which some people might think, whoop-de-doo, who cares? But what happens is, when you try to make your connections in here, when they're up top, there's no room for the connector between the body of the control panel and the solenoid to connect. And so you actually have to bend the metal prongs downward so that you can connect your harness. And I'm not a fan of that at all because oftentimes when they're bent downward, you don't get a full connection. And obviously a washing machine agitates a lot during washing cycles. And so to me, it's just the potential for your connector to come off or for some type of metal to make contact with that and cause a short, or you're just opening yourself up for problems. And then the last thing is, I've read a lot of reviews about people who have used the aftermarket water valves experiencing a leak from the bleach dispenser. And so you might be fixing the wash tub leak, but for whatever reason, they're just manufactured differently than the OE part, and then you just create another leak from a different area. So I highly recommend using only LG original parts for this particular job, just to avoid any potential oddities or mechanical failures that using the aftermarket parts seem to create for people. So I hope you guys find this useful, informative, entertaining. Again, your support is what makes videos like this possible, and I just want to thank you for tuning into the channel today, and we'll see you on the next one.